Okay, here we go. Quiet, please. All right. So we're going to spend a couple days on what I'm calling simplifying rational expressions. Now, by rational, we mean fractions. I mean, that's a kind of a number, which is any number that could be represented as a fraction is considered a rational number. We're more interested, because this is algebra, in fractions that have variables, maybe in the numerator, maybe in the denominator, maybe in both. But what we do to simplify them, it's pretty much goes back to, well, how did you simplify fractions that didn't have variables, right? So we're going to do a little bit of review on that today, and a little bit of review of greatest common factor factoring, and then that's all we're doing today. Okay, so here we go. So when we simplify fractions of numbers, right, the first thing you have to do is identify the greatest common factor in either of the numbers, right? Once you've got it, I mean, you may not even be thinking of it like this. You may not write down this step where you show 4 times 9 and 4 times 10, but in the end, you're thinking like that. You're thinking, okay, what is the number that both have in common, right? And it's 4. So once you've identified that common factor, then you cancel it, right? You're allowed to cancel common factors in the numerator and denominator. And then what you're left with, that's the simplification. In this case, it's 9 over 10. Okay, just to make the point, right? This is what you can't do, right? This is what you can't do. What if I had, let's say, what is 6 over 8? Does anybody know as a decimal what that would be? 0.75, right? Okay, so what if I write this like this? 5 plus 1 over 7 plus 1. That's the same thing, right? Okay, but now if I try to cancel the 1s because, hey, it looks like they're in common, I'm going to get 5 over 7. Now, 5 over 7 does not equal 0.75, right? What you just did there is you canceled a common term, not a factor, right? A factor is something that multiplies, and it has to multiply the entire numerator and the entire denominator for you to be able to cancel it, right? Now, if I take that 6 over 8 and I write it as 2 times 3 and 2 times 4, okay, well now there's the common factor, 2, and I can cancel that. And 3/4, sure enough, equals 0.75. So I didn't change the value when I canceled a common factor. I did change the value when I canceled a common term. So you never want to cancel the common term. You got to be looking for something that divides into the whole numerator and the whole denominator. Then you can cancel it. Right? So let's do this. Worksheet time. It's part 1. Okay, here you go. Here's answers. So on each one of them, you got to be thinking, what is that factor that you're probably doing it in a way where you don't actually like separate it, but what is the greatest common factor between 9 and 18? 9, right? So you take the 9, cancels the 9, and you have 1/2. What's the greatest common factor between 18 and 24?
6.
6, right? That's 6 times 3 and 6 times 4. So you cancel the 6's, 3/4. How about 21 over 56? What was the greatest common factor?
7.
It was 7, right? So it's 7 times 3 and 7 times 8. The 7's cancels, 3 over 8. Okay, so back to this. So let's remind ourselves about how we do greatest common factor factoring. Quiet, please. Okay. Greatest common factor factoring. Also, you got to be thinking about greatest common factor. Okay. What is between the two terms here, right? 56a squared and 40a. What is the greatest common factor? There's an a. You said 8. Okay. What else is there in common? Then there's the letter a. Right. Let me pause this. You got to identify what is the greatest common factor in both terms. In this case, we said it was an 8 and an a that we could take from both. And when you say like take from both, what you're really doing is you're dividing both by 8a. Right? So what do I get if I divide 56a squared by 8a? Right? If I divide by 8a, I'm going to get 7a. Right? And I can confirm that if I just multiply. What is 8a times 7a? 56a squared. Okay, what's going to be left if I take away the 8a from 40a? Plus 5. That's it. Okay, and that's greatest common factor factoring, right? You take whatever is that greatest common factor, you put it outside parentheses, and then inside you leave what you get when you divide each term by that greatest common factor. That's it. Okay, here we go. And then this is your homework. Another worksheet.